Thank you. So we're pretty much at the end of the welcome address and introductions, but we'll move to that in a second. So what we're intending to cover today is what is NEPRO innovation, why NEPRO innovation matters to you as a supplier to the public sector, how it's going to work for you, how you get started, and as I said, we've left a little bit of time at the end of the webinar to answer. Yes, we will, Pippa, share the slides and recording at the end of this. All right. But the Q&As, as I said, if you have any questions, put them into the chat and we'll try and answer as many of those towards the end. If we can move on to the next slide, please. So just to introduce who's going to be taking and doing the majority of the presentation today, the webinar. Moving on to the next one, please. So myself, I'm Terence, as I said, Public Sector and Utilities Director. I'm really pleased that we have Ruth Long, who's from NEPO. She's the procurement manager at NEPO and basically was involved with the procurement. I'm not going to put words in her mouth, but she was very involved with the procurement of this framework, and she'll let you know a little bit about that. And we also have Mark Summers, who's our head of supplier engagement, who should be really sort of your point of contact going forward if you have questions, queries. He'll take you through the sort of meat of the webinar today. So I think without further ado, because we do have a lot to move on to, if we could move over and let me hand over to Ruth.
Thank you, Terence. Hi, everyone. Great to see so many people here. So yeah, as Terence said, I'm Ruth Long. I'm the procurement manager at NEPO. I guess, first of all, why are we here? NEPO is the PBO, the public buy-in organisation that set up the framework that we're here to talk about, NEPRO Innovation, that is delivered by Constellia. So that's the role that we play. We are the public sector authority that sits kind of at the top of the framework. So we've got a little bit about NEPO on the screen. NEPO was established in 1976, so it is our 50th birthday this year. We're actually celebrating our 50th on the 30th of June, so we're very excited about that. We were set up as a collaborative function for the North East local authorities, but have kind of grown significantly since then. What I would say, though, is that we've kind of retained that overall bedrock of that being sort of very much embedded in the 12 North East local authorities. So we remain owned and governed by the 12 North East local authorities, but our solutions kind of stretch far and wide and are available nationally across the public sector. We are officially a not-for-profit, and the way that not-for-profit is funded is by our member authorities, so the 12 pay us an annual subscription. All other public sector authorities can access our solutions, as we like to call them, and that is completely free of charge. So there's no charge for a contracting authority to be a member of NEPO. We've got over 1,000 public sector organisations using our solution. So that kind of covers everything from local government, central government, blue light, NHS, education, and spans the whole country. As you can see on that map, I really love this photo because it's pretty much pointless, but all those little pins are places in the UK where our contracting authorities are based. I think the kind of other thing that I would say that's not necessarily on this slide, but we've just, as part of our 50th, done a bit of a rebrand. And I think the ethos that sits behind that new brand is all about procurement powered by people. We're really a believer in investing in our stakeholders, and that doesn't just mean those public sector organisations that I've talked about, it also means our suppliers as well. So really pleased to kind of be here with you all today. Next slide, please, Katie. Okay, so about NEPRO Innovation, how it was procured. The first thing to say is that NEPO's kind of been at the forefront of the neutral vendor model since 2012. It's a model that we believe in and feel really strongly about. It was a model that, amongst other things, was built in response to demand for access to public sector opportunities for SMEs. SMEs kind of typically and traditionally find that they can be locked out of traditional public sector frameworks. And actually, we recognise that those SMEs are kind of instrumental in delivering value for the public sector. we've always kind of, well, since 2012, delivered the neutral vendor model in some form, but this new model that we've got in collaboration with Constellia was procured in response to two things. So the first thing was that we saw with the Procurement Act, which hopefully you've all heard about, you probably hate all the notices and hate everything about it, but here we are. The Procurement Act brought an increased emphasis from, oh, I can see that my voice is dropping in and out. Is it dropping in and out for everyone?
No, okay, no, Ruth, it's fine. I can
Okay,
hear it.
I apologise. Katie's got her hand up, which means that it might be dropping out for her. Let us know if I need
No,
to
it's
change
fine. It's fine.
locations.
It's fine.
It's
Okay,
okay.
It's fine.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think with that procurement reform came an increased emphasis from Cabinet Office on procurement teams around innovation, around them procuring innovation, which we know that SMEs are absolutely brilliant at delivering, and also about procuring innovatively, so doing things slightly differently in the way that we've traditionally done things. And then the other thing that we kind of recognised is that we had alternative neutral vendor models, but we didn't have anything that was multidisciplinary. And we were talking to SMEs and suppliers at events and things like that, and they were saying to us a lot that they struggled to find a solution that they could sell, that they could sell the services into the public sector, because a lot of typical frameworks are single disciplinary. There isn't that multidisciplinary offering. So we decided that we want to address that. We ran a competitive flexible procedure under the Procurement Act. We engage with the market really heavily through market engagement, and that helps shape the solution design. And that's a kind of principle that we have encouraged that Constellia also do when they're working with contracting authorities and suppliers as part of the managed service that they offer. The other kind of key call out in NEPRO Innovation is, as I say, we wanted to encourage innovative procurement. And so one of the ways that Constellia and NEPRO Innovation deliver that is by encouraging different ways of testing the market. So things like innovative procurement pilot schemes, Dragon's Den type days, hackathons, things that traditionally the public sector procurement teams haven't necessarily had the resource to do. Constellia is that private sector partner that provides that agility for public sector procurement teams to be able to work a little bit differently. We kind of baked that into the procurement process that we did. We did things really differently in the procurement. We tested Constellia really, really robustly. We ran presentations, which was really interesting for us. And that kind of led to us awarding the solution in December 2025 to Constellia, and we launched in February 2026. So we have a 4-year framework term with two-year extension options. So that's a kind of total duration of 8 years, and that's got a £20 billion overall value, which you might be thinking, wow, that's huge. I think one of the kind of business cases around when we were talking to contracting authorities about why they needed this solution was that people have these huge, exciting, innovative projects to solve some of the huge challenges that the public sector has, and these projects are kind of, you know, looking at smart cities, looking at addressing net zero. And so we recognised that we needed that to be a kind of high value to sort of recognise the challenges that the public sector have got. I think that's my bit done. I will mute myself. Yes.
Thank you, Ruth. You're hanging around for the end to take any questions, I hope.
I am, yes,
So,
I'll be here. I'll turn my camera off because I know there's lots of people on, but I'll be here.
thank you, Ruth. Thanks. So if we can move on to the next slide. Yeah, thank you. So looking at who's actually attending, we as we said, we're really pleased so many of you are interested in this new framework. Some of you will have worked with Constellia before, but I know there are sort of a fair number of organisations on here that don't know who we are. So just as a little bit of background before we get into the meat of the webinar with Mark, is, you know, a little bit about us. We've been around since 2007. We work with over 300 public sector organisations and utility organisations currently. We've got about 500 million underspend currently. For the last, one thing that's not on here, for the last 3 years running, we've been awarded one of the fastest growing companies by the Sunday Times, the top 100. So the growth we've been going through this neutral vendor solution has been sort of quite good. One thing we're extremely proud about is the fact that in November in 2025, we actually became an employee-owned trust. So basically what that means is that HMRC classifies us as a mutual. So of the 60 odd employees more who actually work for us, we all actually have a share and an incentive to make sure that Constellia delivers as good as we can, deliver the best service to the customers and our marketplace to ensure that that growth continues. And I think one thing we are very proud of is that DSIT have basically sort of defined us as a key enabler of how the UK public sector can actually deliver, get access to innovation to actually deliver some of the solutions to some of the problems faced by government. In terms of the neutral vendor model, I know we're going to go into this a bit more detail, but quite simply, we operate like a thin prime contractor. So we sit between you as supplying to the public sector and the contract authority who's accessed NEPRO Innovation. The beauty of this is that it's dynamic in terms of the marketplace, because we can allow you, and as I said, there's a fair number of organizations on this call who haven't worked with us before. You can go through the onboarding process, and we'll cover that in more detail, but that gives you a compliant route to work with the public sector. We've got about sort of 4,000 suppliers, ranging from sort of individual organizations, micro SMEs, up to sort of the big usual suspects you could think about. And I think that's one of the other thing we're sort of proud about, is that our marketplace at the moment is about 80% SME. And in fact, last year we won an award for the work we did with Bristol City Council for increasing the number of SMEs that they use to deliver their solutions for the residents of Bristol. I think one thing that makes us different at Constellia to other neutral vendors that may be out there is that we are definitely first and foremost a procurement service. We employ people who tend to have come from procurement, the majority of them from public sector, but we do also have some private sector procurement experts as well working for us. So we're here to support the procurement process for the organizations that we work with. And I think one thing that we want to stress is that there was a think tank recently, the Good Growth Foundation, Good Growth Group, who basically wrote a report that went to central government, to number 10 and number 11 and so on, basically saying that they think that the neutral vendor and recommend that the neutral vendor model should be the gold standard for all public sector procurement, because of the way that we open up the marketplace for SMEs and Shopfront Britain, as they described it, into working with the public sector. And NEPRO Innovation is a fantastic tool to be able to do that. So hopefully that gives you a little bit about Constellia. But now, as I said, I'm going to hand over to Mark Summers, who will take you through what is NEPRO Innovation. So if we can move on to the next slide. Thank you. I'll turn my camera off now too.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks very much, Terence. And yeah, look, it's so encouraging and great to have so many of you join us today. It just shows the interest in terms of, what is innovation in public sector procurement. So it's great to have you here. So look, what is NEPRO Innovation? Well, it's the newest framework, as Ruth said, to the NEPRO portfolio, and it's built around what NEPRO have done over the past 50 years with their procurement expertise in the public sector, and it's delivered by us here at Constellia using that neutral vendor model. And it's a framework that can be accessed by any public sector organisation in the UK. As mentioned, local government, central government, healthcare and NHS, education, housing, MOD, defence, and more. And the interesting thing, it's flexible and it's a fully compliant route to market. And the really important part of this, and the really exciting part of this framework, is what it covers. So the framework itself covers goods, works, professional services, technology and R&D, which is really unusual. And this means buying authorities can save a lot of time and therefore cost by using this one simple route. And that means more opportunities via Constellia and more opportunities for you guys as the supplier marketplace. So it's one solution, a simple compliant route, and it can be used for simple or complex, or Ruth mentioned, multidisciplinary projects. And we know through speaking to colleagues and our own market research and research with NEPO and our customers and clients, the buyers increasingly want that procurement that's agile, inclusive, but importantly aligned to PA23. And this is what NEPO Innovation was built for. So it's a solution through PA23, how the public sector wants to work today. And NEPRO and Constellia are here to help those buyers, your clients, navigate those regulations using the NEPRO Innovation Framework. Next slide, please. So why does this matter for your business? An interesting stat. So over 90% of organizations in the UK who supply goods, services, tech, or works to the public sector don't actually sit on any public sector frameworks directly. So this can mean missed opportunities for growth for you as a supplier, and access to new and capable and innovative suppliers from a buyer's perspective. So this simpler route to market for organizations gives you that need for suppliers, a flexible route, and it mitigates that need to have multiple frameworks. So you're not bidding to be on multiple frameworks, and a buyer isn't have to utilize multiple frameworks along the way. So for your business, it's a proposition that you can take to market direct to the customers that you're engaging with, those who want a future-focused commercial model, and you can show them how to procure your solutions through this one simple route. And what's really important here is that this framework delivers a solution across that multidisciplinary project sector. It makes it easy to procure and compliantly procure, as well as being particularly quick. So to the benefit of both the buyer at your clients and you as a supplier, the framework is actually outcome focused. And what we mean by that, rather than a buyer being prescriptive around delivery, perhaps at that tendering stage, the framework itself enables and actually encourages suppliers to present outcomes that will help fulfill that desired solution to the buyer themselves. Next slide, please. So why NEPRO Innovation, and why this framework, and why Constellia? What does it mean for you with the supply community? So as Ruth alluded to, the reach of NEPO and Constellia is significant. 50 years of credible public procurement expertise from NEPO with over 1,000 associates already acting their portfolio frameworks, and that's growing every week. And again, we've touched on the full breadth of the public sector. It's really easy and simple for you as a supplier to register compared to some other frameworks and a typical framework bidding process. So due to the procurement categories it covers, it minimises the need for registering with multiple frameworks, so making it much quicker. And therefore, as it was designed to, it's levelling the playing field between large organisations and smaller organisations by helping remove the barriers to supply into the public sector. And the framework itself is looking at quality. So this is not just an exercise around price, although price is recognised as an important indicator, but it's very much designed to champion experienced and capable suppliers. So we're also looking for evidence of that delivery. And as part of the registration process, you've got the opportunity to add case studies that would showcase your ability and your previous successes. The framework itself is really easy to use, and that's from a buyer perspective, but also from a supplier perspective as well. It's really flexible, and that makes it an attractive solution for buyers. And that means increased opportunities for Constellia and our supplier marketplace. And having that accessible route to the market is really key. And that was one of the things that was really driven to us during the process with NEPO colleagues. So innovation from SMEs and VCSEs and startups alongside large organizations can be procured really quickly and transparently by the buyers. This framework itself is also cost efficient, and that's deliberate. It was priced deliberately to be a low cost procurement option for the buying authorities compared to other options that are out there. And we'll share the fee structure with you, or it's available now on our website and supplier guides. But to give you an idea, the fees range between 1% and 4.4% of the total project value. The higher the project value, the lower the fee. And direct awards, again, dictate a lower fee than perhaps a mini competition. It's also flexible in terms of what the contracting authority might want. If they need or want more support or guidance through Constellia, then we can absolutely do that, from transactional service through to a full end-to-end procurement service. So we're looking at expanding the capacity of the buyers' teams and working alongside those and our supplier marketplace. Next slide, please. So how does it work between the three parties? So if a contracting buying authority wants to engage with you as a supplier, they would engage through Constellia, utilizing a call-off through the NEPRO Innovation Framework. And conversely, the supplier then would engage with Constellia through the supplier agreement that's already been signed by all parties. So again, really making this a quick process. In terms of the actual service itself and the delivery of the goods, of the project, of the works, that's then set out through a number of deliverable milestones that are there set in a statement of works produced by Constellia and signed by all parties and completely visible throughout the whole project life cycle. Next slide, please. So how does that actually work? So how does that work from onboarding through to project delivery? And we've got some information here for you. So if we look at the first step, you as a supplier would review the documentation to become part of the Constellia supply chain. And you can then upload the required documentation and verifications and accreditations to the website there. A team here at Constellia will then review that documentation on your behalf to make sure everything is present and correct. We'd ask you to sign the supplier agreement, which is an overarching set of terms for delivery between us. And then you can again upload that back to our system, which we then approve, and you become part of the Constellia marketplace. If a customer or contracting authority wants to engage with you as a supplier, they can submit to us a project request form, which details everything entailed in that project. We then follow the particular and the required procurement process. That could be a direct award, that could be a mini competition, but at the request of what the buying authority would like. We'll then collate the final proposal from the successful bidder, and we'll supply that to the contracting authority direct, which hopefully they'll approve on the basis of that. Once that's approved, we collate again the data from the project proposal. We do all the heavy lifting. The procurement team at Constellia does the heavy lifting to produce the statement of works. That details the delivery and the milestones and the outcomes from there. That eventually facilitates payment to yourselves, the supplier. And that statement of works is signed by all parties: Constellia, the customer, contracting authority, and you, the supplier. And from then on, we enter into that delivery agreement, and we work together for the successful delivery of the project. Next slide, please. So how do you, the suppliers and prospective suppliers, get started? And I appreciate that some colleagues on the phone, on the call currently are existing suppliers, which is fantastic, and it's great to see you here. And some are completely new to Constellia. So there's a number of ways to engage with us, via email, via phone, but most importantly, at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, you can see the QR code, which you can scan to start the application to become an accredited supplier to Constellia and part of our marketplace. So once you've scanned that, or you've been on the website, you submit your documentation and your supplier information, and that includes the chance for you to review the supplier agreement, which is really important. So once you sign and return that, it's reviewed, like I said earlier, by my colleagues, and then you're approved on the marketplace, which you'll get notification for. It's at this point then we'll ask you to select from a drop-down menu the categories of your supply, the expertise of what you're delivering into the clients. So you can do that at this point. And then also we'll ask you, as I said, there's the opportunity to upload your case studies to show your successes and previous history in supply of what you can do. And then we'll accredit those. So I'll let you just take a moment just to look at the QR code and note down anything there. But remember, we are going to send out the slides at the end of today's call. Next slide, please. And this brings us on nicely. If there's anything that needs expanding upon about what I or Terence or Ruth has said, or any clarifications that we can help you with, please do fire away. I am conscious of time and numbers, but we'll try our very best to answer everything we can.
Mark, before we do that, I just want to say thank you for that. And just to say, the one thing we haven't really stressed is that this is a unique solution in the market.
Absolutely.
It's the only neutral vendor that covers goods, work, services, and tech that's been let under PA23. It's unique, it's innovative in itself, and which is why in terms of contract authority signing up, the pipeline has been pretty good. We've got about 10 signed up already, and it's just going to continue to grow like topsy. So over to questions, really. I think the way we're doing this, isn't it, Katie, that you're going to read some of the questions, and Ruth, maybe it's if we can put the camera back on, that we can, between the three of us, answer the questions that come to us, if that's all right. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I'll just put some, I'm just trying to go through, we've got lots of questions, but I'll put in through what we can, and then anything we can't answer, we'll try and come back to you post-event. But the first question is asked is, does the buyer or the seller pay the fee?
I'm happy to answer that.
Go on, Terence. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. In terms of the management fee, the idea is that it's supplier absorbed. So you'll be informed of what that fee is at the start of the procurement process. And you need to factor that into the costings that you give. The one thing to say that obviously within any framework, there's always going to be some sort of management fee or rebate. We tell you what this is up. We're very transparent about it, and just factor it in. But you have to bear in mind that you need to be as competitive as you can be when you come back with the pricing, the contract authorities, because if we're not proving best value, they may decide to do something different or go with another supplier. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Terence. And another is, what does the framework add to the buyer or supplier that could not be achieved by cutting out a middleman and costs?
Do you want me to answer that, Terence?
Ruth, yes, please.
Yeah, so I think certainly in terms of the buyers, we recognise that procurement teams and their makeup looks very different across the country. Some procurement teams have got a lot of people in there, 100 plus, and some procurement teams, we see it locally, have one FTE. And so that means that their resource varies dramatically, and they're kind of only able to do, what they can do. So we recognise need a kind of toolkit of procurement routes that they can use, and the neutral vendor model is one of those routes. Constellia delivers, I'm getting another note that people can't hear. Constellia delivers a managed service that I don't know, can anybody hear? Can you hear, Terence?
I can definitely hear.
I can hear.
I can hear.
Who knows why it's not working. So apologies to those that can't hear. They can't hear the apology. So this is kind of another route, and Constellia provide that fully managed service, which means that if they are struggling for resource, Constellia can kind of provide that additional resource. There's tons of other kind of benefits that we see from the neutral vendor model. One of them being that additional access to SMEs, the stats that we see in terms of SME spend in the neutral vendor space versus in your more traditional procurement routes is just astronomically different. We kind of see, 80% plus. I think is the number for you, Constellia, in terms of your SMEs in your marketplace, and we see that as a really valuable thing. I could talk for ages about the neutral vendor service, but the Constellia provide that kind of additional service around specification design, around market engagement, around engaging with the supply chain, aggregating spend. It's kind of like, I could write a book about it, recognizing, of course, that in some instances another tool might be better, and it might be better for a supplier, and it might be better for a contracting authority, but in lots of instances the neutral vendor model really drives value and drives outcomes for the public sector.
Thank you all. On to the next question, if I may. From a supplier perspective, what is the difference between working via NEPRO 3 and NEPRO Innovation, which are running concurrently?
Do you want me to pick that up?
I think you probably would prefer it.
Yeah. I can also see a comment as well about presenters not being on camera, which I think every presenter is. So I think we might just have some technical difficulties. So apologies if you can't see the presenters. Everybody does have their camera on. So NEPRO 3 and NEPRO Innovation are two different frameworks. I guess, again, to go back to that point I just made, different kind of tools in the toolkit. NEPRO 3 is fully services led and is still active. So if you're a services supplier, you can absolutely access opportunities through NEPRO 3. That is active until August 2027. NEPRO Innovation is, as we say, multidisciplinary and has been kind of designed for those more complex projects. So if you are a supplier that delivers goods, work, services, tech, R&D, then you can access opportunities through those two things. Sometimes choice is good for contracting authorities and choice is good for suppliers. And so that's kind of one of our business cases, I suppose, for giving both sides more choice.
Thank you. I've got another question. If we are already onboarded with Constellia, do we need to do anything additional to sign up to this framework? And do we need to do the work to find opportunities via a portal, or do Constellia invite us to bid, please?
Terence, do you want me to jump in?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, if you're an existing supplier already onboarded, it's a case of adding 2 case studies to your profile. So if you go into your own profile, we do have a template on there for you, which you can then utilize. So it's a case of, it's just a case of adding those so they're visible there. Katie, sorry, what was the second part of the question there?
Do we need to work the portal to find the opportunities, or do Constellia invite us to bid?
Yeah, we'll actually invite you to bid. So the importance of completing your own company profile through the onboarding process is vital, because that's how you then become visible to the procurement teams and procurement colleagues at Constellia. And yeah, we'll actually invite you to bid on competitions and tenders that match that particular profile of supply.
Can I add to that though, Mark, that just like any other framework, just because you get onto a framework does not necessarily mean that loads of opportunities are going to roll through the door. That it really is, you still need to engage with customers as you're doing. But what this gives you is another compliant route to be able to work with those public sector organizations. So, your sales staff, you still need them, I'm afraid, because they still need to engage. But what this does is a sales tool. But there will be opportunities that come your way as well, as Mark says.
Thank you. I think this kind of is quite a relevant question as well on that. If you could further elaborate, is there a portal that highlights the live opportunities to bid on? So how does our portal work in terms of how they see those opportunities?
Mark, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I'll take that one. Yep. So the portal works on a push notification, as we've said there. So we don't advertise the vacancies that we're working on, but rather we then approach suppliers with opportunities that match their profiles. So it's very, very straightforward and efficient.
Brilliant, thank you. I think we've got a couple of questions as well in the room. Amy or Hannah, if you wanted to raise any points there, I can see you've got your hands up. Don't know whether they can unmute themselves. Hello.
Hi, thanks, Katie.
Yeah.
I just wanted to quickly clarify that any of you that have already onboarded as suppliers on our system, the system is the same system that you've already onboarded and have your logins for, so there's no need to change anything. You will just need to complete the case study and accreditation process that Mark described, and we also have an accreditation guide, which I'm sure we can send out after this call as well, which will just clarify the steps that you need to go through.
Thank you, Amy. I think there was an additional question as well about the number of case studies. Is it per discipline? I believe it is per category, isn't it? Service category for those.
Yeah, that's correct. So it's 2 case studies per category, and you can complete as many accreditations as you want to. So if you want to accredit against multiple categories, that's absolutely fine. We would just need the 2 case studies per category.
Thank you
Hello
for
everyone. I just wanted to add as well, if that's all right. I'm Hannah Stanworth. I'm the supplier relationship manager at Constellia. So I would be available to support and help with the NEPRO accreditation process with the suppliers in the marketplace. What we can do as well, which is really helpful, is request the accreditation from you at the point of a relevant project. So obviously when we get a project come through via the NEPRO Innovation Framework, we'll be informed of which category it would align to. We can then work with you to request the relevant accreditation and get you ready to supply via the framework as well. So there's always we're always available to help support you with the accreditation process, basically. And there is a guide, as Amy mentioned. So please be assured it's an easy thing to become accredited under.
Thank you. Thanks, Hannah.
No
so we've got lots more questions. We'll try and run through as many as we can, and then any that we can't, we'll follow up separately. So how is the framework being pushed out to public sector buyers to encourage them to use it instead of using their normal procurement route?
I'll answer that one. That's all right with everyone. Basically, what NEPRO Innovation is another procurement tool that's available to the procurement team. So what we're doing is the normal thing that we do, which is we've done webinars, we've been to conferences, we're going to continue to go to conferences, we're going to continue to talk to procurement teams across the UK. And the UK is all, I did see one question pop up, is it available in Northern Ireland? Yes, it is. It's available across the UK. So we're going to continue to engage with organisations. Constellia, we've been doing this a long time. We have a number of existing customers who we're migrating onto NEPRO Innovation because it's important to stress that NEPRO Innovation is our preferred procurement route for all our public sector clients. So we're aiming to move as many as we possibly can over to this as well. So the pipeline that we have for this in terms of contract authorities is growing. So yeah, we're just going to continue to go out there and make sure that they're aware that this is a route that's available to them, and hopefully one that many of them will take up. I hope that answers your question. Katie, next one.
Thank you, Terence. Can you give us more of an idea of how you will run the innovative procurements?
Mark, do you want to take that?
I mean, does Ruth want to take that one?
I can. I think so.
But
From
I think
a
it's-
kind of at that framework level, I can talk through sort of some of the expectations that we would have. So we essentially asked Constellia to build innovative procurement processes that align to what the contracting authority wants and needs. So I think that would be a dual-pronged approach in the sense that it might be that a contracting authority knows they want to run a pilot and therefore Constellia can just facilitate that pilot. Or it might be that Constellia goes out to their marketplace for a requirement and finds that there isn't really that requirement there. They need to do a bit more digging. Maybe they need to do some additional market engagement, or they need to do a meet the buyer event, and therefore would kind of guide the contracting authority around what innovative processes are relevant to them. We didn't define it really heavily because innovation, the sort of point of it is it can be a little bit of anything, which I know is unhelpful to Terence because I'm kind of telling him that him and the team have to do everything. But that's kind of what we set out to achieve at that framework level. I don't know if there's anything that you want to add from a service level.
Well, yes, thanks, Ruth. I just an example. So one of Ruth's colleagues, Katie, and myself went to visit a contract authority yesterday. And one of the things we talked about was how NEPO, which Ruth's talked about, is they did a presentation stage in terms of sort of digging into, addressing AI issues, which we haven't covered today. But anyway, we're not going to do that. But we talked about the sort of how they did the presentation, the benefits of it, and they're considering using that in one of the procurements that we're going to be doing with them. So what the neutral vendor solution gives you is more flexibility. And I think, essentially we can work with, we're working with contract authorities and suggest ideas. They'll suggest ideas to us. So there isn't sort of a right or wrong way to do this. It just gives a bit of flexibility to do that. if that's all right.
Thank you. Another one. Do you need to be a UK company to sign up as an approved supplier?
No.
Easily
Next
answered.
question.
Yeah. So as there are so many suppliers on Constellia, do you have a maximum number that you would invite to take part in a competition for an opportunity? And will all the suppliers be advised how many bidders they're up against?
No, they won't. Let's answer the latter first. No, we won't tell you. Probably unlikely to tell you how many are in the competition. In terms of the numbers that are invited, it's really something that we work with each contract authority and agree with them how many that they would like to be invited. A lot of it comes down to how many proposals they want back. One of the reasons this is attractive to contract authorities is that, unlike traditional procurement routes or DPSs, where you could be inundated with proposals and some of them may not be able to even address what they're looking for, this is a more focused way to actually work with the market. So I'm sorry, I can't be more definite than that, but essentially each procurement is going to be different depending on what we're procuring.
Thank you, Terence. And is there a time frame for suppliers to sign up, or can they do so at any point during the framework agreement?
Yeah, they can sign up at any point during the framework agreement. Again, that's the beauty of the flexibility of it. There's no close period or cut-off period.
Well, I think we've still got quite a few questions, but I'm conscious of time and that we've already spent nearly 20 minutes on Q&A. So I don't know whether you wanted to wrap up there.
Well, we'll do
that we wanted to go that you
Katie,
wanted to
let's do one more question and then
Yeah, sure.
we'll wrap up, and then obviously we'll address any questions we haven't answered as a follow-up to this webinar. That's right. So one final question and then we'll wrap up. So
okay, so trying to find.
I did see one pop up, which is and I'm definitely going to answer this one. It's about whether you can direct award under NEPRO Innovation.
I thought that was.
I think again, the answer is yes, but obviously what we're trying to do is encourage contract authorities to do competitions where they can, and part of that is to allow more competition, to go more access to all the suppliers that are on the marketplace. So we always try to encourage competition where we can, but no, direct awards are absolutely compliant, and we have and are doing a number of them as we speak. It looks like Hannah, you want to add something to that?
Hello again. Yes, it was more just I've seen a lot of questions around accessing opportunities, which is obviously completely valid. What I would suggest is we can share some guidance with you on optimizing your profile, which means that should there be an opportunity that's relevant to what you do or have expertise in or have solutions around, we want you to come up in the search results when we're sourcing on behalf of a contracting authority, because then we can notify you about the opportunity, because you've obviously come up, and we can say, depending on how the buying authority wants to run the process, this is an opportunity that's upcoming. It seems like you might be a match. Are you interested? So that optimization piece and sort of tagging the right categories into your profile, telling us about what you do is really, really important. So what we could do then perhaps is share out some guidance as part of the follow-up pack from this. So it would be my suggestion, just to help people out.
Yep, that's great, Hannah.
Really good.
Look, as Katie said, we've been doing quite a lot of Q&As. Sorry we didn't get through all of them, but we will follow up with all your questions after this. Can I thank Ruth from NEPO for taking time to come and answer questions.